Cool. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Degenerate Mentor. Today we have on Alec Cheplak, and I met Alec about a year ago. I think it's about close to a year ago. Got to talk to him at an event, and then you meet somebody, and the coolest thing about social, I believe, is that you meet somebody, and then you can follow them, and as you follow them, you can kind of watch their journey, and have their journey inspire you. And so, those of you that know me know that health and fitness to me is pretty big. Business is huge, but so is you know doing hard things, and so that's what Alec does. And so I asked him to be on today and kind of share his story and talk about the things that we talk about: commitment and consistency and accountability and all of those things. So, Alec, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about what it is that you do, and then we'll kind of get into your story and what that looks like for you and your journey.
Yeah. So today, what we do, I'm co-founder of CHEP Black Live Wellness. You can probably see here on my shirt. My father and I are partners. We have both our wives in our partnership in our business as well. And what we've been able to do and are currently doing is mostly coaching top team leaders and brokers all across North America. So we're bringing forward sobriety, drinking less or none at all, lifestyle change, improving health markers and blood work, changing generational curses in family, just improving the health in households, basically just coaching people in complete lifestyle intervention all across North America. And we've been able to bring it forward to the team leaders, to the brokers, to the agents, and people who may be doing well, maybe struggling a little in their business, but we understand that the personal development and the human being always comes first, and then it allows them to grow in other areas of their life as well. So that's what we're at now. It wasn't always what it is today. I started out, man, when I first started, it was more just to get sober, right? Like I just started this fitness thing just to get sober. I mean, 12, 13 years ago. My father has long-term sobriety now. And so that's been very special to see. But by the time he was sober, I was already in my addiction. And so when he first got sober, it's funny. He's like, I didn't have a car, I had a bicycle. And the first thing he invested into was a personal trainer and a gym membership, like before he even had a car. And so he went all in on this fitness thing. He started competing in a bodybuilding division called Men's Physique. I was pretty deep into my own addiction at that point. And he was like, let's go to Culver City, California. I'm going to compete in my first show, and I want you to be there. And I was in that reluctance, like, defiant stage there and not quite ready to change at that point in my life. But I went with him and I saw him step on that stage, and it was just it planted a seed for me. Really what it was is my dad, who struggled with addiction, who struggled with alcoholism, was now a winner. So it's like someone who was a loser is now a winner. And those terms I put in quotations because they look different for everyone. But it was like he really broke a generational curse of alcoholism in the family, especially the men's side of my family, and did something different and did something cool. And so that kind of planted the seed for me, led me on my path to start competing in Men's Physique. And over time, it helped me to find my path of sobriety. It wasn't in one pivotal moment or linear. First it was giving up the hard drugs, and then starting the competing. And then, here's the thing about it is when people quit hard drugs, oftentimes they fall into alcoholism because, well, I'm not doing the hard drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's alcohol, it's social, it's acceptable, it's promoted, and not realizing that I couldn't stand on that, like, sobriety from the hard drugs and justify the alcohol until that became a problem. And so over time, I've been able to get fully sober, and we're going on approaching 5 years now, sober from everything. And it's just given a relationship with me and my dad beyond anything I ever could have asked for. It's given us this business. This business was an idea and a concept over a decade ago, man. But how my dad operates is, he doesn't just do business because people are friends or people are family. He does it when people are ready. And he had to go through his path, and then I went through mine, following shortly behind, but he had to let me go through mine as well. And then once I was ready, it's interesting. I always say the best thing my dad ever did for me was nothing. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I mean that he allowed me to have my self-discovery, because I feel like when he was trying to give me the path and give me the leadership and give me the advice, I wasn't having it. And so then he took a step back and he allowed me to walk through and keep bumping my head on the wall. And, it was worse than that, but I'll call it bumping my head on the wall. And he allowed me to have those real life experiences where no one else could ever teach you that. You have to experience that. And then once I was ready, I was married. I had my partner. I had a good relationship with my son. We had a thriving fitness business, prior to launch of this company. And he said, okay, I think you're ready. Let's do this thing,
I always find it, when I think back and I look at sobriety, I don't know if it's just because it's the story that we tell ourselves, but like I think I quit doing drugs in 2007, right? And so, like you said, it's like, well, then I found out I wasn't a very good drinker. It took me 11 years to figure out I wasn't a very good drinker. Like I tried, I gave it my best shot. But that there was that much of a time frame of, for me, it was 2007 to 2018. And then 2018, I'm like, yeah, I just don't think I probably should do anything.
Yep.
At this point. And so I don't know if it's for us. It's like, well, it's still something that we can go do. Cause I don't know. Partying was fun, right? My wife quit smoking about 6 years ago. And her excuse to me was always like, yeah, but I enjoy it. I'm like, but I enjoyed cocaine and you didn't care for me doing that. Like, it was like, I don't remember having a bad time. I had bad days after, or bad weeks after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, where I was. But even in the drinking, it's like, well, I always had fun. Like it wasn't, I wasn't I don't think I was a bad drunk. I didn't fight. I didn't do any of those things. I also didn't do anything productive. I think it's crazy when I talk to people and they're like, hey, I've been drinking for whatever, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. And they're like, you always talked about how you got your time back. And I didn't realize there was that much time to get back. Like you think I just have some drinks on Friday night. And then for me, I drink Friday night and I drink all day Saturday night, and then probably Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was it. So it's like 3 days or 2.5 days, but it wasn't. It was so much time involved now that I can, and your dad's a huge inspiration for me as well. And so I get people give me shit all the time. Like, you try to be Cheplak, right? Cause I get up at 3, I do all these things in my day, but it's like all that time was given back.
Yeah.
Because of how I feel now. Right. Because, and even when I drank, I still CrossFitted. I still like competed in that. I did okay. Right. I could still go to competitions and I might not win them, but I could still be in the top 10%, which, was pretty good. But then once again, it was that my coach always tells me, don't take pride in things that don't serve you. And that was taking pride. Like I can still drink and show up at CrossFit Saturday morning and crush everybody. Well, I don't know if that's such a great thing now looking back. But, for me, and it's probably, I can't speak for you, but I'm sure it's similar. I got to be in something. Like the time has to get consumed with something. It's either going to be something productive or unproductive, unfortunately for me. And so now it's, I like to self-development and health and fitness and those things, and obviously work as well. So I'm just addicted, I believe, to different things. But I do believe that it's better for me. It's better for my wife. It's better for my son, my grandson, my family, all the people that I lead. It's definitely made a huge change, overall on all of those aspects. And so,
yeah,
what's your thought on that?
Well, you said something that's really special to me, and there's like statistics. So in Las Vegas, and it's across the country, really. You see it with fentanyl, you see it with a lot of these overdoses, but in Las Vegas, there's an opiate problem. Big time. And so that's the thing. I come from an opiate addiction background, and a large majority of the people who get into opiate addiction die. So like a lot of the people that I grew up with died from that. And it's not a war story. It's not a woe is me. It's just statistically true. It's just what it is. And I think there's levels to this sobriety thing. And so what happens is people will have their main Goliath, right? Like the opiates were it for me, I thought. And it's not. It's all consuming. Like you said, you replace one addiction with another. And so what I've seen is a lot of these people in opiate addiction will they'll die. And then some of them will get sober. So like a small percentage of them will stay alive, get sober, but then they become alcoholics. Okay. I see it, kids I grew up with. Then a smaller percentage of them will also get sober from alcohol. Okay. So there's a percentage who survives and becomes alcoholics. There's a smaller percentage who gets completely sober. And then there's even a smaller percentage who go on to build a noteworthy life, to build a fulfilling life, to build a successful career, to build a happy marriage, right? And so it's like, it's such a slim chance that you make it out and you make something. And so the message I want to bring forward through sobriety is that sobriety is not the end goal. I think that's where it's a big problem, is people look at sobriety like it's the Goliath, it's the finish line, it's the I made it. Sobriety is the foundation for you to stand on to build a great life. Like once you get sober, now you have to go build something.
Yeah, it's where
Like
life begins.
you didn't overcome that. You didn't go through that. You didn't choose to change just for that to be your claim to fame or your most fulfilling choice. It's a really pivotal point in your life. It could be life-saving, life-changing, and change generations to come. This is true, but I don't think that we're going to inspire the next generation of sobriety by just saying, I got sober, and then we aren't living a life of our dreams. We aren't living a life of excellence. We aren't living a life of service to others. I think it's our responsibility as people who make it out to do something great so that we can actually inspire people to make it out. And for some people, dude, not everyone's an alcoholic. Not everyone's a drug addict. Some people, it's food addiction, man. Like some people have different childhood traumas and different generational things that were passed on. It's health concerns, it's overeating, it's diabetes that was caused through lifestyle, a bunch of things. But we have to go be the light and be the example and do something exceptional for other people to have enough draw to say, hey, this pain I'm in, I want out of, but what's waiting for me on the other side? Is it even worth it? And so like, that's what I want to do, is demonstrate excellence and show people that there's actually something epic on the other side. It's not like I'm just sober, I survived, right?
Yeah, surviving, we need to thrive. Like survival is important, obviously, but like you said, it's like, okay, now what? And I have found in speaking with a lot of people, relapses come from, when I look at data that I've gathered in conversations that I've had, almost all the relapses that I know of comes from people not having a purpose. The purpose was sober. The purpose was sobriety. Okay, now what? And then there was nothing, like you said, there was nothing for them on the other side. And then we get bored and all these things start to happen. Maybe we start hanging out with some people that we used to hang out with, whatever that is. And then all of a sudden, it's not all of a sudden, I shouldn't say that. Over time, we end up right back where we were. And then they don't understand why.
And here's the thing. I think it's so much deeper than sobriety. I think this has to do with why people just don't have a fulfilling life in the first place. Because we all get stuck in something differently, whether it's the alcohol or the drugs or the food or the entertainment or escapism. Like we get stuck in this way because it's what we saw. It's what we were raised around. It's what we expect and accept of self. And I think we discredit self, that it's even possible for us to do something great too often. And so like, even you, like, you joke around and you're like, people say, I want to be like John, but like the dude's an example. There's something great on the other side. And so like, and if you don't have that example in your family, well, there's other people that are that example. And that's what I mean. We have to be that light of hope. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we're a little bit more like John in some areas of life. I'm just saying, so, and so for Greg, I'm sure many people you lead look to you like that. And you get to be that example and that light of hope for them to actually have something on the other side of overcoming whatever their Goliath is that's in front of them, man.
How do you think about or deal with something that you had just said in being that example? How does that help or hurt? Right. I guess it could go either way. In the decisions that you make and the choices, like, is that something that comes up internally for you? I mean, I know for me, there are times where I am going to make a choice and I have to think about, okay, I was the warning. Now I believe I'm an example. And if I want to continue to be that example, like, is this the right choice? Does this choice get me closer to where I want to be? And not even sometimes where I want to be, but knowing that if it's such a slippery slope. I know that I'm being watched. Either I'm being watched by haters who want to see me fail, right? There's no way that guy can keep, for knowing me for 30 years, there's no way that guy can keep on the path that he's on. He fucked up too much. He was always partying. Like, there's no way this will last, right? And so, or the people are like, I really need it to last as I'm watching him. And so, I don't know, for me, those play a part sometimes in the choices that I'm making. Like, I think about those things. I'm like, man, like, I can't fuck up for me 100%. And like, I do believe sometimes there's that weight on your shoulders. Like, I just can't fuck up because it's just not right to fuck up. Like, there's so many other people that if I make it okay to quit, right? To quit drinking, to quit doing drugs, and I make it okay to get healthy, and then I make it okay to get fit, and then fit is, relative for everybody. But if I fuck that up, then I've given permission to not do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Does that weigh on you at all? Is that something that you think about, or is it?
I think that sometimes when you're in the hole and rut and you're on that path, it's going to be very self-centered, self-focused, because you might not see your ability to impact or inspire others, but down the path, it becomes more and more about others than self. So here's what I'll say. In the moment, self might be the trigger for people to change. In the moment, we may not even believe we could be the example for others to change. And that's okay. Or it might be the reason, right? Like for me, my biggest driver is that today's my son's birthday, actually. He turns 8 years old today. My 8-year-old son has a sober dad. Okay. I didn't have that at 8 years old. That's my biggest one. That was my biggest childhood thing, because I wasn't raised bad. I wasn't, there's people with worse circumstances. My own sister was born with a heart disease. She's had 26 heart surgeries. It's not what was me, but my biggest one was my father, man. At a young age. And so that's mine. Is my 8-year-old son will never have to remember that or experience that or feel that. So that's one fold, is like your kids are watching you, man. Okay. And so either you're going to pass on to them what you went through, or they might never have to experience that based off your choices. My son will never have to feel that way, and I'm super grateful the relationship I have with my dad now, but man, it was a road to get here. I'll tell you that. And here's second fold, is like, you have to get over yourself eventually, because when it was just about me, that's not enough either, because it's also easy to let self down. But like, I'm not going to let that 8-year-old boy down. I'm not going to do it. Here's another one. My grandma is late stage dementia. Okay. My mom does full-time care for her. And now we're in a position, because I serve this mission, because we built this business, my mom doesn't have to go to work, man. And then I don't say this to brag, but like, if I don't serve the mission, if I don't build the business, who's going to pay my mom's mortgage right now? Right? That's on me. You got to be insurance for those people. So yeah, it's one thing, sobriety, and be loving and present for my son. It's another thing, you got to be successful in your career, because life costs money. Money's not everything, but everything costs money. And now when other people can't for self, I can. And so it has to be bigger than yourself, man. We wouldn't have built the company we have today. We wouldn't be serving mission at the scale we are today if it wasn't rooted in service of others.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm not crazy. That's good. It's good to know. Talk about a little bit. They can't see you too much. I mean, I can see you. So I've seen pictures of you back in the day. So let's talk about what you used to weigh at a down point, and what you weigh now. So perspective, like, because man, when I see side by sides, I'm like, Jesus. Like,
yeah. So when you're an opiate addict, 99% of the time, you're not your healthy regular weight, just so you know. So like, it's very exaggerated, my weight gain, because I was malnourished and underweight when I started. So it wasn't like, oh, I just was here and then I was here. It was way under a healthy weight. So I'm like 5'10", 5'10 and a half. I was 120 pounds.
damn.
I was like a skeleton. But that's when you're in your addiction, you're not really eating, or you're throwing up. Like, like, you're just malnourished and depleted, dude. You look like a skeleton. Now I'm 195 today. So, but that's 12 years difference, 75 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes. I mean, at first I gained weight really fast too, because I just got up to a healthy weight. Like, you just start eating 5 times a day, you start working out, you stop doing the drugs, and you just like gain your healthy weight, you don't just gain a bunch of tissue right away. But when you get off the drugs, you start eating multiple times a day when you weren't, you gain a good like 10, 15, 20 pounds quickly just to get back to a healthy weight, you know?
So what was your mindset when you made the decision? Because I believe it's a decision. When you made two major decisions. One decision was to quit doing opiates, and then the next decision was to quit drinking. What was that like for you? Was there a pivotal moment? Was it just something happened? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was a series of misfortunate events, and not on the woe is me side. I'm 100% responsible for all the hardships in my life. Period. It was a series of poor decision making, a series of repeated patterns, a series of getting that urge and that voice and that whisper to change, and then maybe changing just enough to where it didn't hurt too bad, and then staying at that level until you get smacked in the face and then it hurts more, like that little whisper turns into a yell. And there were so many times, but the biggest one, it comes back to when I got off the opiates and started the bodybuilding thing. That one comes back to my dad, because he was in his thing and he reached his hand out. And because I was, he was like, you could live with me. You're going to eat these foods. You're going to do these workouts. You're going to be sober. I'm going to drug test you. Like that was, I was like 17 years old when he did that. And so that's how I started the bodybuilding thing. Later on with the alcohol thing, it's just, I was an adult by then and out on my own. And I'm like, dude, I'm just repeating the family cycle. Like my son's not going to have a present sober father when I stay down this path. And so there was just distance there. And I needed to get that right. I needed to get my sobriety, and I needed to be the father I'm meant to be, and just stay true to what my actual purpose was the whole time. That is easy to drift away from if it's not rooted in others. Right. Cause like when the first thing with my dad, when I started the bodybuilding, that was selfish. That's what I mean. It needs to be bigger than self. Okay. So that one was selfish, which was good enough. But then to really get fully sober, it was no longer selfish. It's like, dude, I'm not going to be here for my son. Like I'm not going to make it out the other side of this thing. So I want to make sure my son doesn't have to go through life like that, and that's when it started to be pivotal, is when there's a perspective shift where it's no longer about yourself and it's about others.
Did you just stop? Like people ask me, like, they ask me if I went to rehab, and I say, no. And then Dustin always tells me, you did. You had 27 years of rehab. Every day that you drank and did drugs was another day closer to you not doing it, until the point where I was like, yeah, I had a pivotal thing happen. A friend shot somebody and then ended up killing himself way far away. But it made me start to think in that moment, like, yeah, I'm going to take a 30-day break. Cause I take breaks, take a 30, 60-day break. And then I saw your dad speak in that 30, 60-day break. And then it was like, well, if that dude can do it, like he's on stage speaking, like I want to do those things. Like if he can do it, I can do it. Then it was, 90 days, 120 days. I don't know. It's just like, people, are you going to drink again? I'm like, I don't think so. Like all these things are starting to happen. Focus, clarity, doing things that I always wanted to do. Like, and I wasn't not successful in my business. I mean, I made the most money I ever made when I drank. We're building now, right? We have companies now. That's different.
Yeah.
So like that was another thing that was taking pride in something that served me. It's like I made good money and I drank 4 days a week. And so it was like, well, it's not a bad thing until it was. And so for me, it was just like that made that decision. Like, I don't think I'm gonna drink again. And then it just got better and better and better. Like even my wife says, like she didn't believe me until I was like a year and a half sober that I wasn't going to drink again. And it took that year and a half for us to even get to a spot where we were even talking about, continuing our relationship at that point. So like, cause there was so much damage up until then. And then I'm like, oh, I'm ready. Like I'm going to quit drinking. It's all going to be great. It's going to be everything that I told you in the beginning, everything I promised you when I convinced you to marry me, right? Sales guy, like all of the things, we're good now. And she's like, well, no, it
doesn't work that way.
We're not.
Now there's baggage to unpack. There's work to do. It's like rebonding. Yeah, I failed that test, man. Like the mother of my child, she's amazing. She's a great mom. She is amazing. She's phenomenal, dude. I'm very supportive of them. We have a co-parent situation, and I'm very supportive of her and him financially, make sure they have anything and everything they need so that she could have them 4 or 5 days a week. I'll have them 2-3 days a week while I'm building our future right now. And I'll have him later today for his birthday. He wanted to go to school and celebrate with all his friends. I offered to have him take the day off. He's like, I like my friends at school. I want to be with them. I was like, all right, cool. And so, I failed that test, like our relationship didn't work because of my drinking and stuff. And so just things like that, like repeated patterns of like, why do I keep ending up alone? Well, why do things keep not working? Well, I'm the common denominator here, and then, and then whether it was, alcohol poisoning moments or, overdose moments throughout the years, but I don't want to make it some war story. I want it to just be the reality of like, I kept making choices that were leading down the wrong path. And you do it enough times where you're either going to just keep doing that and live your life stuck that way, blind to the fact there's a better path. And I think having that example of my father getting his sobriety and then building a life, that's what I mean by being that example. Is I kept getting these results I didn't want over and over and over. And I'm like, how come this guy's life is good?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to go this way. I'm just going to follow that. I'm going to be more like my dad. I mean, my middle name is Jonathan, dude. So I'm just going to be more like Jonathan. And then it works out. Now I have a great partner. I have a great marriage, great wife. And we don't have things we need to repair and unpack. And we've been able to build a foundation and build a life together,
That's amazing. I always find it funny on consistency. It's talked about a lot nowadays, and people are like, you just have to be consistent. I'm like, well, you already are. I consistently did all the things I wasn't supposed to do. I was consistent at the things that I did the wrong way over time. It's like nothing happens overnight, successful or failure. Like you don't fail overnight either. It's years of doing bullshit, and then all of a sudden it smacks you in the face, right? Like, oh, the company's out of business, or you OD, or arrested, or whatever it is. It's like, it wasn't just, at least for me, it wasn't just one night of debauchery that made me get arrested. It was not getting caught for 15 years and then all of a sudden getting caught, right? It's like, we rolled the dice a lot and came out on the other side. More often than not, here they call me the Cuban cockroach as my nickname, because it's like I should have been dead 100 times over the dumb shit that we did. And like when I tell the stories that they're like, what, excuse me? Like what? Huh? Like, yeah, it's just like we didn't think that we were doing anything out of the ordinary for the group of people that we hung out with. Like that was fun, or, to me, it was doing uncomfortable things then. It was just not for the right reasons. Right. For the purpose or to be fulfilled, or to figure out what I was capable of so that I could go out and do bigger things. So,
well, and I want to piggyback on what you said. I agree. People don't have a consistency issue and they don't have a commitment issue. No. They're all committed and consistent to all the wrong things. That's what it is. Like, for example, when you talk about people dealing with addiction or sobriety, like, you're no more consistent and committed once you get sober than you were when you were using. You've just shifted what you've committed to consistently. That's it. It's still the same behavior. You still do something day in and day out. You're still willing to do anything to get it. You're still drawn by it and motivated by it. And that's why you got to, like, when you're stuck in these patterns, you got to replace them with a purpose. And that's replacing it with obviously faith. A lot of people have some faith and belief in God and a higher being. That's been instrumental in me, regardless of what other people believe. That's been big for me. Family is a big one for me. My father and rebuilding that relationship as an adult man, and then my son and building that relationship where we don't have things to unpack or work on. It's a work in progress, but I mean, it's great. It's amazing. It's better than anything I ever experienced. And then that wellness side of, like, I know that fitness is my path to clarity and sobriety, and then just being a vehicle and giving it to others. And so it's just replacing these things. And then the sobriety, man, is like, dude, people are so caught up in taking the edge off. And right now, more than ever, I think you need an edge in life. And people are going to drink to take the edge off. They're going to smoke to take the edge off. They're going to eat food to take the edge off. And I'm like, the people who depend on you might need you to have that edge so that you can be the best you can be and support them in any way they need it necessary. Right.
So let's talk about food a little bit, because I know you do a lot of coaching around food, diet plans, those types of things. And so in thinking about that, you're already committed and you're already consistent, right? In the way that you eat currently. Um, how does it a mindset shift for people in diet? Because once again, food isn't looked at. It's probably the worst thing, but it's not looked at as the worst thing, right? It's probably
Mm-hmm.
the biggest ailment that we have is what we put in our bodies and why we get sick and all the things that happen in later in life, could have all been avoided, I believe, from what I've read and research I've done on the things either by moving more and eating better. I mean, the two things together are phenomenal. And so we've been programmed for, so yeah, if I'm doing drugs, people can go, well, he's doing like illegal things. That's not right. But you can just go to the store. Like I always tell people, sugar's always been way harder for me to give up than cocaine was. It's like, it's
Yeah.
way
So
harder.
food and alcohol are like the most dangerous. I feel like that's where the majority of illness and ailments come from is food and alcohol because it's glamorized, it's socialized, it's done in a community, it's done in a culture, it's done mainstream, it's all over the TV, it's at every event you go to. And they're just, people don't realize that food and alcohol alone can kill you. Like I've had to get on phone calls with people that will not get their blood work done. And this guy, here's a cool story about it, about the food thing. This is super important actually. So I got this client, Scott Botello, great guy. He's phenomenal. He's crushing it. I met him in Tahoe and he's been a client ever since. We're going on a year working together. Then Scott hits me one day and he says, "Hey, you gotta speak with my buddy Jonathan. He's a really good guy, but he needs your help, man." I'm like, all right. This is what people don't get. The food or alcohol is just as dangerous or more than the hard drugs. Like actually. And especially because when people do hard drugs, they do it in the closet. When people do alcohol and food, they do it in public. And everyone's like, come on, man. Let's, you know what I mean? Until it's so late and someone's dying. And so here's the deal. This guy, Jonathan, and the only reason I would ever talk about this publicly is because he gave me permission by sharing it. He shares his story. He tags us. He loves it. I posted it. He loved that I posted it. He's totally cool with it.
Good, because he's
But this
inspiring
guy,
people. So that's great.
100%. So this guy, I get on the phone with him, man, and he's telling me family members died from, like diabetes and stuff like that. And I'm like, you ever go to the doctor? And he's like, yeah, they want me to check my blood glucose and get on this medicine. And I'm like, okay, what was your blood sugar? And he's like 300. And I was like, what's your A1C? He's like 11. I'm like, John, listen, man, I record all my calls too. So I have it. And I'm just sitting here at my kitchen counter and I say, John, I don't care if you buy from me or not today. This is not a sales call. I am not hanging up from you until you go to your doctor and you start tracking your blood glucose and you get a gym membership and you like, I'm not hanging up. If you keep this path, you will die. I said, you don't need to buy from me, dude. I don't care if you buy from me right here. I would be wrong to hang up on you right now. And this was a long call. I mean, I felt gutted, dude, because this is someone who's been told he needs help. He's seen it through his family, right? And I just felt gutted, man. And I felt really in my purpose there where the right thing for me to do was hang around. Dude, this guy's down like, I don't think we're like 25, 30 pounds now. His blood sugar is in normal range. His A1C, I believe it's like 5.5. His doctor is like, what the hell are you doing? Like his doctor is in shock. He wouldn't talk to his doctors. He wouldn't see his doctors. He wouldn't take the medication or check the blood sugar. This guy's life has changed forever, dude, because of that conversation. And that's what people don't get about this food thing. There's reluctance, there's avoidance, there's denial. I want people to have a wake-up call, man. I want people to understand how important it is. In that moment with Jonathan, dude, if someone needs, you don't need to buy my stuff. This ain't a plug to buy my stuff. You don't need my website link. Dude, if you need someone to have a tough conversation with about your lifestyle change, I will sit on the phone with you gladly and unpack it with you. Anyone watching this, because it was a pivotal moment for John. And
well, it's a pivotal moment. Like you said before earlier, we talk about alcohol and drugs, but it's a pivotal moment for his family. because now he's breaking generational things. Everybody had diabetes. Well, if they didn't have type 1, if they had type 2, then that's a food thing. Like there's things that can be done. Now, yeah, not for everybody, but for most. And so now by him doing shifting, Ed Milet always talks about you can be the one in your family, the one that changes it for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have the one yet, you might be the one, and everybody's waiting for you. And so by him doing that, it's phenomenal.
If nobody in your family is fit, healthy, and sober, you should be the first.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of work.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's just a little. That's where I've been going with my message lately, man. If you see like how it kind of evolves and develops over time, is like I'm big time on the like, this ain't the pay for results program. That's not what this is. This is the, here's the real work required program. You do the work, you get the reward program. You know what I mean? And some people need those tough conversations, because look, we're doing people a disservice when we're selling them the solution, which isn't actually the solution. Dude, the solution is never gonna be it's never. And
you give the solution. All I do is follow you.
Bro, I give
you
it
literally
for
you
free.
literally give it step by step, meal by meal. Like the solution, it's not the solution isn't the problem.
No, it's not. And it's not even the program. Like, and I'm a career coach. Okay. I've been coached for 10 years. I believe coaching is life changing. No coach is your problem or your solution. You are. And so like, I don't believe, if you're unwilling to change your choices, no coach or program can ever help you. And so that's the conversation people need to have. Like now when I get on a phone call, it ain't a buy my program phone call. It's a, dude, you got to change this. And it's not just, oh, you got to change this, harp on you. Here's a different choice you could make in replacement of that one. You got to do it, and those are the pivotal moments, is when people realize they have the power of choice, dude.
And so how do you believe that I know we hold ourselves accountable. I get that part. And coaches can help, right? Like I have a fitness coach, I have a mindset coach, I have a loan officer coach, I have a nutritional coach. And then the accountability that comes along. For me, money helps me be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm paying for something, I'm normally going to have a better option. Like I have a cold plunge. I bought it almost 2 years ago. And my wife's like, I can't believe you're spending this amount of money on this thing. And I broke it down for her, how many bags of ice it would take for me to do it if I went and bought the ice. Like, because I'm a finance guy, so I'm numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, babe, it's 10 bags of ice to get to 60 degrees at $4 a bag, and I did it offer. I go, if I did that for a year, it would be around $6,000. She goes, great, no problem. So you're plunging every fucking day for 365 days. So I did, right? So I paid myself back, but because I made the investment, right? It's like, well, I have to do it now. Like that's the fullest accountability for me. Like I could have done so many other things with the amount of money that it costs, right? And so I have to do that. So how do, like when you are talking to people, because it does help to come, like I said, the program you can just go online. You can get it from anybody. Right? What do they say?
You can go get it for free. You can go get it for free on YouTube, Google, and AI right now. Like go into Chat GPT, you get a full program.
And then you don't do it.
No one's going to, the problem is that you won't do it. That's the problem. You don't need.
How do you help people hold themselves accountable? I guess is the better question.
It has to be their idea, not yours. It has to be their idea. It has to be their commitment. It has to be their public declaration. You can't convince someone to commit or be productive. My dad says, like, you can't make people productive. You can just create an environment where they can choose to or not to be productive. I'm not here to set, like, I'm giving it away for free, dude, literally, because like the people who get it. And if you don't get it, then they're curious and they ask the questions. I'll answer the questions. But we have an environment, so it's not that cut and dry. The depth to it, Greg, is deeper than the money. It's deeper than the coaching, deeper than the accountability. I hear this from Dean Graziosi all the time. They either are motivated to move away from pain or move toward pleasure. And so when those things either or get big enough, people are inspired to change. And so sometimes if the stars align, it's something like when you're ready, when the student is ready, the mentor shows up, right? And so that's the thing, is like, when you're finally ready, you've had enough is enough. I'm fed up. I'm pissed. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this. Boom. That's a moment. Okay. Another one is that moving toward pleasure, there's a better option on the other side. And so that's what I was talking to you about earlier, is like sometimes that pain's not enough to move them if they don't see there's a better example. So here's how I would, if we go a little bit more surface level, because that's the depth at their root core. Borrowed belief is massive. Borrowed belief is massive. And the only way you give people borrowed belief is being the example. Nobody is inspired by your words or your to-do list. They aren't listening to what you say. They're watching what you do. And so let people experience it. Let them bump their head. Let them stub their toe, right? And just be that gentle reminder. Bring your message forward, whether it's in the news feed, whether it's in the email, whether it's in text, whether it's just face-to-face encounters, the little drip, but eventually the pain's going to be so great and they're going to look and see borrowed belief in you. And that's when they're ready to make a change. So once someone's ready to make a change and ready to be transformed through their choices, then it's surface level. Okay, money motivates them, or accountability motivates them, or a Zoom, or the program, or the structure, or a check-in text. But it has to be deeper than that for people to really change. And for some people who maybe just they're fit, but they want a six-pack, it ain't that deep. It's just not that deep. They'll just do it because you're a good coach. You got a good program. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. It's not that deep when someone just wants to get a little. But I'm talking about the people who like really need to change. Yeah, I'm talking about people that are down bad and need to change. But surface level, they're just, oh, you're legit. You get results. You walk the talk. Let's work. You know what I mean? It's a lay down. But the other people need to go through it. They need to go through their self-discovery to make that change.
So if people wanted to find you, how would they find you?
Facebook is where I'm at. I'm wiling out on Facebook all the time. I'm all up and down the news feed. Alec Cheplak, ALEC, first name, last name CHEPLAK.
Awesome.
Facebook is where we're at, man.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. I know a lot of people can get a lot out of this, so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. And you know, I know you're a dude of service to others. So I respect that. I respect you, and appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, man.